Have you always wanted to grow your own Snapdragons from seed, but you're not really sure how to get started?
We want to help you build your Snapdragon knowledge and show you how to grow Snapdragons in your garden step by step today.
Hi, we're Sean and Allison from Spoken Garden, and we're partnering with Eden Brothers to help you in your garden.
We want to help you become a better gardener and grow your best vegetables and flowers yet. So let's talk about Snapdragons. Now, before we show you how to sow these seeds, there's a couple things we want you to know. First, Snapdragons, or as they're botanically known as Anarhinum majus, are an annual type of flower, and they're hardy in zones generally 4 through 10. Now, Snapdragons really like well-draining, loose, rich soil and like to grow in full sun. Now, the Snapdragons we're going to show you how to sow today are called Twinny Peach F1, and they're a 2010 All-American Selections winner because they produce a double flower and it has a compact growth habit. Twinny Peach produces really delicate flowers with kind of a peach and an orange blend in their flower colors that really resembles a beautiful sunset. And with these beautiful fragrant flowers, they'll grow up to 12 inches tall and 6 to 8 inches wide. Now, Twinny Peach and Snapdragons in general have average water needs, but they're fast growers and they're easy to maintain. Now, Snapdragons are usually planted in the springtime because they'll start flowering into mid to late spring depending on when you plant them, and they'll flower all the way into the fall months. They're great for containers, along borders, for cut flower gardens, and for general landscaping. Now, Snapdragons grow really well with California poppies and yarrow and other similar plants that flower from the spring through the fall. And to top it all off, they're cold tolerant, they're deer and rabbit resistant, and they're great pollinator attractors for bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds.
All right, let's talk about when to sow your Snapdragon seeds. For indoor seed sowing, which is what we recommend, plan to sow them 8 to 10 weeks before the last hard frost of your area for best germination rates. Outdoor seed sowing for your snaps is possible, but it's harder to predict the germination rates with the variable outdoor spring climate. To sow your Snapdragons indoors, make sure to start by prepping and filling your cell trays with pre-moistened seed starting soil or another finely textured medium. Now, Snapdragon seeds need to be planted 1/16 of an inch deep or just right on the soil surface and pressed in. So the next step is to carefully get your seeds out of the packet and drop 1 to 2 seeds into each cell. Be careful, they're very tiny. Lightly press your seeds into the surface. And the last step is to gently water them in so you can start the germination process. And that's how you sow Snapdragons indoors.
Now, your seeds should germinate in 10 to 14 days, and they'll germinate best if you place them after planting in a sunny location with consistently warm soil and moist soil. While the seedlings are growing, try to maintain a growing temperature of 60 to 70 degrees so they can grow their best. If you have multiple seedlings growing really close together, you can always thin them from each other and either try and transplant them away like you see here, try and peel them away and transplant them into their own cell trays or to grow individually, or you can actually just cut the plant off, the smaller plants, and discard them. When you want to plant your Snapdragons out into your garden, you're going to need to wait until the threat of frost has passed. Then once you've reached that point, you'll need to harden your seedlings off. Start to bring your plants out for about an hour or two each day, and then progressively increase the time that they're outside. And then for the last couple of days of those 2 weeks, keep them out overnight so they really get fully acclimatized to your garden, and then you can plant them out in your garden. Now that our plants have been hardened off, we can plant them out in the garden. Now, you can plant them in a container like you see here, or you can plant them just out in one of your ground beds or a raised bed. Make sure to use some type of like general garden soil or even a potting soil like we have here. You want to pre-moisten the soils. You want to make sure there's a lot of water available right away for those seedlings once you plant them. Now, before you plant your seedlings, make sure to fluff up and break up the soil. You want to have nice loose soil about 8 inches down so your seedlings have really loose soil to grow into and have an easy time getting established. Your Snapdragon seedlings need to be spaced at least 6 to 8 inches apart so they have enough room to grow. So I'm going to make one little indentation right here, one mark in the soil, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out and measure from there at least 6 inches out, and I'm going to use a hori-hori knife with graduated markings on it in inches, and I'm going to mark out there's 6 inches and there's about 12 inches, so we'll have plenty of room here and to go crosswise too, I think. Yeah, that'll be 6 inches over to this way too. So we'll have plenty of room to plant at least 4 Snapdragons in this container. So to transplant your seedlings, make sure to get them out of the cell tray nice and easy. Just nicely, slowly pull them out. And you can see here, we've got a couple of them right here. We're gonna peel these apart and we're gonna separate these. So I'm just gonna break up some of that soil, and then I'm just gonna pull one of these off of here. Just pull one at a time, and we'll set them out on the soil, and then we'll plant them one by one. Now, it's important to match that old soil level of the seedling to the soil level of the container, so you're not planting your seedling too deep in the soil or not enough, like too high in the soil, too shallow. What we're gonna do is each one of these, we're just gonna place down into the soil here, and we're gonna match that soil level of the seedling where it was growing to the soil level of the container, and then pack that soil in around it. And again, just make your hole, make sure to get those roots down into the hole, and then match up as best you can that soil level. If you can see right there, there's our old soil level. We're gonna just pack that soil back in there, holding that seedling steady, and then make sure that soil's nicely packed around it so it's nice and sturdy as it sits there in its new home. Now the last step is to water these in nice and easily so we don't disturb them, we don't displace them and have them come out of the soil. We want to water down that soil as best we can, get all of the soil wet, and so they'll start off fully hydrated in their new location. In the days and weeks to come, make sure to regularly water your plants. You don't want them to dry out. And even on those hotter days, it's okay to water them a little bit more because you want to make sure that they don't start wilting, because this can impact their flowering and growth later on. Now, once each one of these plants actually grows about 6 sets of leaves, you want to pinch the very top of each plant off so it'll grow bushier, it'll grow fuller, and it'll actually produce more flowers for you. Now, it's perfectly fine to get your plants on a regular fertilizing schedule. Now, whether you use a time-release fertilizer or a liquid fertilizer, just make sure it's a well-balanced fertilizer. So a 2-2-2, a 5-5-5, a 2-4-3, that'll be fine. Now, one thing that'll really help keep your soil moist is adding some mulch over the top of the soil, and that'll hold that moisture in the soil longer and make it more available to the plants. This will also, with the mulch, it'll also help with weeding, because you want to make sure that no weeds start to grow in here, because you don't want your plants competing with those weeds for nutrients and water and space. After your first flush of flowers are done and they've withered back, go ahead and deadhead them, because you want to promote further flowering throughout the rest of the summer and into the fall. Now, it's important to know that snapdragons are susceptible to different pests and diseases. Now, some of those diseases are powdery mildew, downy mildew, rust, and even root rot. These will develop if you overwater your plants and you have them in really mucky soil, so don't overwater your plants. The pests they're susceptible to include aphids, mites, and fungus gnats, amongst others, so keep an eye out for those. Now, once your plants have made it to the fall, they've stopped growing and they've withered back down to the ground, you can either cut them down to the ground and leave them, or fully remove the plant from your garden.
To harvest your snapdragons for cut flowers, you'll need hand pruners or florist scissors, a small vase, or even a 5-gallon bucket with some clean, cool water in it. Look for stems that are at least 8 inches long to harvest so it can keep producing more flowers. Make sure to harvest your cut flowers in the early morning after watering, when the plants are least stressed and the stems are strong.
Now, if you need more flower growing or harvesting tips, you can always go to EdenBrothers.com and check out their planting guides.
And we hope this video was really helpful for you in sowing your own snapdragon seeds. And from us at Spoken Garden and Eden Brothers, thanks for watching.